You know, the internet as we know it was built on something that's actually finite. And for years, we've been teetering right on the edge of running out completely.
And that really begs the question, right? I mean, think about it. You've got your phone, your laptop, your watch, your smart TV, maybe even your refrigerator. They all need a unique address to get online. The math just doesn't seem to add up. So what's the trick? And this, right here, just lays the problem bare. The original system, what we call IPv4, had a hard cap of about 4.3 billion addresses. But we have way more than 30 billion devices connected today. It's kind of like trying to hand out unique street addresses for every single person in a huge country, but you only have the address book for a tiny little town. It's just not going to work. So, to deal with this, network engineers had to get really clever. They started thinking about these addresses less like a simple phone book and more like digital real estate, a finite resource that had to be managed, divided, and zoned with incredible care.
And there it is. That's the magic number, a little under 4.3 billion. It seems like a lot, but as we just saw, it's nowhere near enough for the modern world. Every single one of those plots of digital land became incredibly precious.
So what was the main fix for this real estate crunch? It's a technique called subnetting. The idea is, if you can't just magically create more land, you have to get incredibly smart and organized with what you've got. Let's see how that works. And really, that's all subnetting is at its heart. It's a strategy. You take a big block of addresses that you've been given and you chop it up into smaller, much more useful pieces. It's not just about organization. It stops waste and can even boost security. Let's use an analogy here. Imagine you're given this giant, open field of land. You could just let all your devices roam free, but it would be total chaos. Inefficient, messy. That's basically what a big, flat network is like.
And this is where it all clicks. Subnetting is just the act of putting up digital fences. You put up a fence here for the sales department's computers, another one over there for engineering, and maybe a really tiny little yard just for two servers that only need to talk to each other. Each one of those yards is a subnet, perfectly organized and built for a specific purpose.
Okay, so how do you actually build these digital fences? Well, network architects have a specific set of tools for this, and it really is like a city planner laying out blueprints for a new neighborhood. The main tool in the toolkit is something called CIDR notation. Now, don't worry about the acronym. All you really need to know is it's just a slash followed by a number, like /24. And that simple little number tells you everything, how big the plot of land is and how many devices can live inside it. So let's look at some of the most common blueprints you'll see out there. A /24 is kind of the classic size for a whole department. Gives you 256 addresses to play with. Need something smaller for just one team? A /26 gives you 64. A /28 is great for a little cluster of devices, like a few printers. And a tiny /30? That's often used just to connect two routers. It's all about choosing the exact right size for the job, so you don't waste any of that precious land.
And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. As the source material makes super clear, those four sizes we just talked about, the /24, /26, /28, and /30, they are the absolute workhorses of corporate networking. If you get those, you get the big picture. But, just like with real city planning, things can go wrong. A small mistake in your subnetting blueprints can lead to total digital zoning disasters, networks that can't communicate, or even worse, running out of addresses when you thought you had plenty. So the key here is being super meticulous. The pros, they live by 3 simple rules. First, always calculate your usable addresses, not the total number. Second, make sure your subnets line up correctly on their boundaries. And third, just double and triple check your math. Let's really dig into that first rule because it's a big one. Okay, this right here, this is probably the #1 trap people fall into. You get a /24 network, you see 256 addresses, and you think, great, I can connect 256 things. But nope, you can't. You only ever get to use 254 of them. So what happens to those other two?
So let's jump back to our city analogy to see why. Think of it this way. The very first address is the street name itself. Let's say Main Street. You can't live at Main Street, right? You live at 123 Main Street. So that address is reserved. And the very last address? That's the town crier. It's a special address used to shout a message to every single house on that street at once. Since those two have special jobs, you're left with 254 for your actual devices.
So, all this clever planning, all this subnetting, it was a brilliant fix for sure. But it was really just buying time.
The real solution, the permanent one, was to, well, discover a whole new continent. And that new continent is called IPv6.
To really wrap your head around just how massive this change is, you need an analogy. With IPv4, it's like you have just a handful of sand, and you try to give one single grain to every person on the planet. You're gonna run out fast. And then there's IPv6. The number is just, it's absurd. 340 undecillion. That's a 340 with 36 zeros. The new analogy? It's like being able to give every single grain of sand on the entire planet its very own Earth's worth of addresses. It's, well, for all practical purposes, it's infinite.
So in this new IPv6 world, the entire game just flips on its head. We're not worried about scarcity anymore at all. Get this, the standard block of addresses you get for your house, your home network, has more addresses than the entire old IPv4 internet combined, by a lot. The challenge isn't about saving space anymore. It's about figuring out how to organize a nearly limitless universe.
And that, of course, brings us to the big, forward-looking question. We've gone from digital scarcity to almost unimaginable abundance. So if we're not fighting over plots of land anymore, what's the next great challenge? How do we possibly manage, secure, and navigate a digital universe that is, for all intents and purposes, infinite?